You know, we spend like a massive portion of our lives just following the rules.
Right.
We obey the laws, we buy into the social contracts, we build these metaphorical and literal walls around ourselves.
All with that one fundamental expectation.
Exactly. That if we do things right, the system will protect the people we love most.
I mean, there's the basic transaction of civilization, you know? We trade our autonomy and sometimes our instincts for the promise of security.
But what happens when that transaction bounces? When the rules you follow, the walls you trusted, just absolutely fail to protect the people you care about? We are jumping right into that collision today in this deep dive.
Yeah, we're pulling from a document titled The Order of Chaos Deep Dive.
Right, which sits inside the Empowerment Echo brand and the wider Saints Bloodline canon.
And to be clear, we aren't just looking at fantasy lore here.
No, definitely not.
We are really dissecting what happens when profound, irreversible grief shatters that illusion of order.
And how that transforms into an unstoppable, unpredictable force.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting with the architect of this entire philosophy, Octavius Saints.
Yeah.
Who is this guy before, the world breaks him?
Well, before the tragedy, Octavius is the younger son of Dorian and Syla Saints. The timeline established here is actually highly specific.
Right.
He is born when his father, Dorian, is 29, which makes Octavius exactly 2 years younger than his brother Adonius.
Got it. So he grows up in Voldia.
Yeah, Voldia, which represents the ultimate manifestation of rigid order, like huge walls, strict hierarchies, absolute rules.
And within that system, he's a total prodigy.
Exactly. By the time he is 16, his natural combat aptitude is just, well, it far outpaces anyone his age.
But the text makes it clear his identity isn't tied to his sword arm, right?
Yeah.
Like it is entirely anchored to his mother, Syla.
Yeah, in a family tree practically bending under the weight of complex political dynamics, his bond with her is the absolute linchpin.
And my favorite detail here is that he basically becomes her unofficial bodyguard. Nobody assigned him this role. He just intuitively positions himself between her and the rest of the world.
Why does he do that, though? Like, even at 16?
Because he senses the blind spots in Voldia's grand design. He looks at those massive stone walls and the regimented guards and realizes they project an illusion of safety.
Right, because conventional defenses are predictable.
And predictable defenses can be bypassed. He feels this instinctual need to be the unpredictable final line of defense for his mother.
Syla definitely recognizes this fierce, almost burdensome, protective instinct in him.
Yeah, she gives him a gift that becomes iconic in the lore. A pair of ornate, spiked gauntlets for both hands.
And he absolutely refuses to take them off. He wears them in brutal combat training. He wears them standing around in formal court settings. He even sleeps near them. To me, it reads like an emotional weighted blanket, but designed for war.
Oh, I love that analogy. It's a permanent physical tribute to his connection with her.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is how that internal emotional architecture is stress-tested even before the kingdom falls under attack.
You're talking about the night of the argument.
Exactly. So Octavius, at 16, is hidden completely in the shadows behind a column in the Great Hall of Voldia.
Just watching.
Right. From that darkness, he secretly observes his older brother Adonius and their father Dorian engage in this massive fundamental clash of philosophy.
It's a complete ideological fracturing of the family's future.
Yeah. Adonius believes in a radically different path for the bloodline than the rigid structure Dorian has built. It isn't just a disagreement, it is a final severing. Adonius walks away.
And Octavius just absorbs this entire catastrophic fracture in total silence.
He doesn't step out of the shadows. He never tells a soul what he witnessed.
Wow.
He just carries the weight of his family splintering. That quiet capacity to observe deep emotional devastation, internalize it, and keep functioning, that is the psychological bedrock that later makes him so incredibly dangerous.
But that psychological endurance was about to meet a physical tragedy that Voldia's walls couldn't keep out.
Right, because Dorian leaves the kingdom on business.
And while the architect of all this order is away, the system just completely fails.
It does. The hand of the Lord infiltrates Dorian and Syla's personal chambers.
And for context, these aren't random mercenaries, right?
No. They are the absolute most lethal elite assassin unit of the rival Franarth Empire, commanded by a figure named Barbacatios.
And Barbacatios isn't just sending a message.
No, this is a calculated extermination. Decades earlier, Barbacatios murdered the parents of another key figure, Tisabella.
Right. He has a long, bloody history of severing bloodlines to maintain his own twisted version of dominance. He views Syla as a loose end in a very old war.
So you have 4 of the deadliest killers on the continent breaking into a locked bedroom.
And they find themselves face to face with Syla and a 16-year-old Octavius.
The mechanics of this fight are just brutal. It is 2 against 4 in close quarters. There is no room for elegant swordplay or formations.
And this is where Octavius's spiked gauntlets become devastating.
Exactly. In a locked room, a sword can get caught on furniture, but armored, spiked fists turn every block and strike into lethal, blunt force trauma.
The lore is explicit. Syla and Octavius manage to kill every single one of the assassins.
But the victory is entirely hollow. Syla is mortally wounded in the chaos and dies right there on the floor in Octavius's arms.
The text describes him slamming the floor, screaming. It's a complete evaporation of whatever ties he had to his parents' kingdom.
And then there is a profound physical transformation. Originally, Octavius had brown eyes.
Which he inherited from Dorian, right, symbolizing baseline, unassisted humanity.
Yes, but the moment Syla dies, his eyes instantly turn gold.
Wait, why gold? If he just watched his mother get murdered, wouldn't red for rage or black for darkness make more sense?
I had the exact same thought when I first analyzed the text. We are so conditioned by fantasy tropes to expect red for rage or black for corruption.
Right.
But the authors did something brilliant here by choosing gold. Think about the metallurgy of gold. Gold signifies alchemized grief. If you throw raw, jagged ore into a blindingly hot furnace, it melts down, but it doesn't disappear.
It emerges as something precious, heavy, and dangerous.
Yes, and permanently changed. It can never go back to being raw ore.
So it's physical proof that he didn't just snap and become a mindless monster.
Exactly. He accessed a frequency of endurance most humans simply never reach. The gold eyes aren't a warning that he has turned evil.
They are the physical manifestation of total, irreversible loss witnessed up close.
He survived an emotional impact that would have obliterated anyone not built for that specific kind of endurance.
And if his literal DNA is changed by this event, his entire worldview has to shatter.
Right.
This brings us right back to our opening premise. If the massive walls, the guards, and the strict laws of Voldia couldn't protect his mother in her own bedroom, then order wasn't just flawed.
Order was a complete lie.
Yeah.
When you realize the system you trusted is fundamentally hollow, you stop asking it for permission.
Which is exactly what he does. Octavius leaves Zoldia shortly after. No grand announcements, no letters left behind.
He simply departs the same way grief enters your life,
Yeah.
Without warning, without permission, and without a neat plan for what comes next.
And out in the wilderness of that grief, he founds the Order of Chaos.
It isn't a political movement. It is a manifestation of pain that has nowhere to go but outward.
It's untamed, unpredictable, and answers to absolutely no one.
The visual identity of the faction perfectly mirrors this rejection of uniformity, too. Everything is unified in black.
Like tattered black hoods, capes, robes.
Yeah, but within that darkness, there is intense individuality. Every single warrior wears a bone-colored skull mask, yet no 2 masks are identical.
The visual chaos reflects their tactical mindset. And Octavius, of course, is the only one who wears the spiked gauntlets.
And for those tracking the digital footprint of the brand, their official faction emoji is just the skull.
I really appreciate the lore's explicit detail regarding the women in the Order of Chaos, too. They are completely equal to the men in status, rank, and lethality.
They share the exact same dark aesthetic, so there is no visual distinction on the battlefield.
Right, and both men and women can access what the lore calls berserker mode.
Which is arguably the most terrifying and misunderstood weapon they possess.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because pop culture has trained us to think berserker means a wild, blind, screaming rage, just swinging a weapon at anything that moves.
Oh, definitely.
But the text states that this assumption is the fatal misunderstanding most enemies make. It's not like throwing a tantrum, it's like removing the safety governor on a high-performance engine.
That is the perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
Mechanically, a standard soldier in combat experiences a massive cognitive load.
Right, they hesitate, they assess their own safety.
They feel pain, they calculate mercy. Berserker mode removes that entire CPU load.
Yeah.
It is intentional, controlled destruction with absolutely no internal filter.
The text claims that one single Chaos Warrior in Berserker mode can take on 15 opponents simultaneously?
Yeah.
How is that mechanically possible, though?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to the enemy's reliance on rigid paradigms. When a traditional army looks at a battlefield, they are doing math. 15 swords, beat one sword.
Makes sense to them.
Right, but they expect that one person to fight defensively to parry, to try and survive.
No, and a Chaos Warrior in Berserker mode abandons self-preservation to maximize kinetic output.
Exactly. They will take a non-lethal hit just to deliver a fatal strike. When you remove the instinct for self-preservation, you break the enemy's tactical models.
So the 15 versus 1 math becomes completely irrelevant.
Because the one is operating at a frequency of violence, the 15 simply cannot comprehend.
But to wield that kind of devastating, unpredictable power across multiple battlefields, Octavius can't be everywhere at once.
No.
He needs a vanguard he can trust implicitly.
And he has one. The Black Rage.
Right, the absolute tip of the spear.
The Black Rage is Octavius's personal elite unit of 10 warriors.
And they aren't appointed through nepotism or selected from a roster, right?
No, they prove themselves over time through their capacity to handle the deepest levels of that controlled destruction we were just talking about.
Visually, they are terrifying. Floor-length, tattered black robes, black hoods, moving as a single, heavily coordinated unit. They flank Octavius as his shadow and his shield.
Yeah.
But I have to push back on the premise here for a second. How does a faction fundamentally named and based on the concept of chaos manage to maintain a perfectly synchronized, highly disciplined elite unit of 10 people that move as one body?
It seems contradictory, right?
Yeah, doesn't that directly contradict their own brand?
I see why it looks like that, but it actually reveals their specialized definition of the word. They aren't chaotic to each other.
Oh, interesting.
They are completely unified by their shared trauma and their mutual rejection of the old rules. Their chaos is actually a highly evolved internal discipline.
I see. So they are chaotic to the broken systems they are destroying.
Exactly. To an empire that relies on neat rows of soldiers and predictable supply lines, the Black Rage looks like pure, formless chaos.
But internally, they are a finely tuned instrument of demolition.
Yes. They are the disruption, not the disorganized mess.
And the orchestrator of a lot of that disruption is Javion Gallo, right?
He is Octavius's trusted second-in-command, a core member of the Black Rage, and his loyalty is absolute.
The lore highlights his incredible tactical mind.
And Javion is visually distinct, which is rare in this faction. He's the only member of the Black Rage to wear a black cape instead of the floor-length robe.
But the real tell is his mask. In a faction where everyone wears a bone-colored skull mask, Javion wears a completely solid black skull mask.
It's impossible to miss. His rank is never formally announced, but anyone who knows the order knows exactly what the black mask signifies.
And tactically, he doesn't just charge the front lines. He exploits the enemy's reliance on order. If the enemy relies on centralized communication, he doesn't attack their shields, he attacks their messengers.
He attacks the negative space in their grand strategies.
But we need to pivot here, because the Empowerment Echo brand doesn't just leave this as a cool fantasy story.
No, this specialized definition of chaos translates directly into a real-world warrior mindset for you, the listener.
Exactly.
The core philosophy here is about acknowledging a deeply uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the system's meant to protect you, whether that is a corporate structure, an institution, or a social circle. They fail you completely.
Or worse, you realize they were never actually built to protect someone like you in the first place.
Exactly. The chaos mindset says that when the system fails, you must accept reality, rather than pretend the broken order still works.
The text is incredibly blunt about this. Grief and trauma change you permanently. Just like Octavius's eyes turning gold, you don't get to choose how the fire changes the ore.
But the ultimate power lies in what you build from the version of yourself that survives.
Right, you don't need permission to survive, and you certainly don't owe obedience to a system that broke you. There are two quotes from the source material that just hit like a freight train. The first is, "They feared the chaos. I became it."
The enemy, or the toxic environment you are facing, thinks they are issuing a terrifying threat.
Right, but the Chaos Warrior hears an invitation to return to a darkness they've already mastered.
They know the terrain of hell intimately, far better than the people threatening them with it.
So what does this all mean? When we look at our own lives, how do you, the listener, actually apply this chaos mindset to a difficult 9-to-5 job or a personal struggle without just literally burning your life to the ground?
This raises an important question, because the real-world application is entirely internal. Weaponizing the void isn't about literal destruction. It is about mental emancipation.
Okay, so it's a mental shift.
Yeah, when you are facing a system that is actively working against you, Embracing chaos means you stop expecting that system to save you. You stop tying your self-worth to their broken
You
metrics.
stop playing a game where they control all the referees.
Exactly that.
Hmm.
You operate with an unpredictability they can't prepare for because you are no longer constrained by their expectations of how you should react.
It is about weaponizing your past hardships so that when new threats or hell arrive, you look at them and realize you are already perfectly adapted to survive them.
You don't panic when things get chaotic. You recognize the chaos, and you let your own resilience match it.
You become the one variable they can't manage.
Right.
Bringing this all back to the lore, the grand irony of the entire Saints Bloodline saga is just brilliant.
It really is.
Octavius sent those assassins to finish a decades-old war. He thought that by killing Syla in her own home, he was tying up a loose end, maintaining his own twisted version of order.
But instead of cementing his control, he accidentally ignited Octavius. He created a catastrophic force that operates entirely outside of his mathematical models of war.
He birthed the Order of Chaos, a weapon he can never predict, control, or stop.
He tried to crush a family, and instead forged the exact instrument that will dismantle his empire.
And that is the ultimate takeaway for anyone listening. The hardest moments of your life, the times when you feel like the walls have completely collapsed and the rules have failed you.
Those are the exact moments where your grief can be alchemized. You have the immense capacity to take the very things that were meant to destroy you and reforge them into your most untouchable strengths.
We started this deep dive by talking about the rules we follow and the walls we build to keep ourselves safe.
Assuming the transaction of civilization will hold.
Right. But as we sign off today, I want to leave you with a different thought to turn over in your mind. Take a look at the rules and systems you're currently relying on in your own life. If they failed you tomorrow, would you blindly go down with them? Or would you have the courage to become the chaos that builds something new?